My son forgot his phone on my kitchen counter. That's how I found out he was planning to sell my house and move me into a nursing home. I'm Leonard Granger, 63 years old, retired construction engineer. I built my house in Denver with my own hands starting in 1999. I raised my son Nolan in it. And last spring, I stood in my own entryway and listened to him price me out of my own life. He didn't know I was listening. It was a Tuesday evening. Nolan had stopped by after work, said he just wanted to check in. We had coffee at the kitchen counter I'd installed myself, talked about his projects, talked about nothing much. He left around 7, normal visit, same as always, except he forgot his phone on the counter. I noticed it maybe 2 minutes after he walked out, screen lit up with an incoming video call. Diane, his wife. I picked it up to bring it out to him. But before I reached the front door, I heard his voice from outside. He'd already answered on his car's Bluetooth. The phone was still connected through the house. Diane's voice first. Finally, I was waiting. Sorry, had to get out of the house first. Nolan quieter than usual. He's slowing down, Diane. I can see it. Forgot to turn off the stove last week. Getting confused about his appointments. So we move on this. The house is worth $820,000 easy in this market right now. We list it, move him to Sunrise Manor on Colfax. It's decent, not too expensive, and we're done. Problem solved. I stood there holding my son's phone. Problem solved. I set it on the porch railing and walked back inside. I didn't go after him, didn't call out, didn't say a word. I just stood in the kitchen, in the house I built, and felt something go cold in my chest. My wife Judith passed 2 years ago, breast cancer. She was 61. After she died, this house got very quiet. I kept her library card on the nightstand. Her bookmark still marking page 247 of the mystery novel she never finished. I told myself I was doing fine, keeping busy, managing. Turns out I was also just waiting to find out what kind of son I'd raised. Now I knew. I went to my home office and sat down at my desk without turning on the light, just sat there for a while. Then I opened the bottom drawer, the one with the important papers I never threw away, because Judith always said you never know when you need them. She was right about most things. I found the co-signed paperwork from 7 years ago, $45,000. Nolan's first business loan when no bank would touch a 30-year-old project manager trying to go independent. I'd put my name on that line without hesitating for a second. I remember the day we signed it. He shook my hand across the desk at the bank and said, "Dad, everything I have starts with you." I'd been proud of that, proud of him. I also found something I hadn't gone looking for. Stuffed between 2 old folders were bank notices. The kind with red print at the top. Nolan had stayed with me for 3 weeks last fall while their condo was being renovated. He'd left these behind by accident, same way he left his phone tonight. $18,000 in outstanding debt from a failed development deal. 2 collection notices. The kind of financial trouble that gets worse fast when you don't have real estate as a cushion. I looked at those papers for a long time. Then I understood the full picture. This wasn't just greed. Nolan was drowning, and he'd looked at my house like a life raft. The $820,000 would clear his debt and give them a fresh start, and I'd be at Sunrise Manor on Colfax out of the way, grateful for whatever visits they managed to fit in. I kept the bank notices, put them back in the drawer, didn't say anything to anyone. I went to bed that night and stared at the ceiling for a long time. On the nightstand, Judith's reading glasses sat folded next to her water glass. I hadn't moved them. I thought about what she used to tell me when I'd bend over backward for people who didn't deserve it. She'd put her hand on my arm and say, "Leonard, you're too good for your own good. Don't let people take that from you." I should have listened better when she was around to say it, but I was listening now. Next morning, I put on my good jacket, the navy one Judith had bought me for Nolan's college graduation, and I drove to see Arnold Davenport, real estate attorney. Second floor office on Colfax Avenue. Judith and I had met with him when she got her diagnosis, just to make sure our affairs were in order. I still had his card in the drawer. His office was lined with law books and framed certificates. He poured coffee from a small machine in the corner and sat down across from me like a man who had heard every version of this story before and wasn't going to rush me through mine. I told him everything, the phone call, the plan for Sunrise Manor, the house valuation Nolan had done in his head like I was a distressed property to be flipped. Arnold listened without interrupting. When I finished, he set his pen down. "The house is titled in your name only since your wife's passing." "Correct. We owned it jointly, transferred to me automatically when she died. Then your son has no legal claim, 0. He cannot list it, cannot force a sale, cannot make any decisions about your property without your explicit written consent." He leaned forward slightly. "The house is yours." Completely, I asked him how fast a cash sale could happen if I wanted to move on this before Nolan got back from his Phoenix conference the following Friday. Arnold said 10 business days with the right buyer. I told him to start making calls. I want to be honest about something before I go further. I didn't make this decision in 5 minutes. I sat with it. I drove home from Arnold's office and walked through every room of that house like I was seeing it for the first time. In the kitchen, I ran my hand along the granite countertop I'd installed myself, working by lamplight after my regular job because we couldn't afford to hire anyone. Judith had picked out the pattern. Said the gold veining reminded her of sunlight in the morning. She'd made coffee on that counter every day for 16 years until the cancer took her strength away. I stood at the bay window in the living room. I'd built that window because Judith saw one in a magazine and fell in love with the idea of reading there in the afternoons. 6 months of overtime to pay for it. I'd learned to cut angles I'd never worked with before, measured and remeasured until my back ached. She'd sat there almost every evening with her mystery novels and a cup of tea, reading glasses on the end of her nose. That window was not a construction detail. That was a promise I kept upstairs. I stood in the doorway of Nolan's old room, still had the navy blue paint he'd chosen when he was 15, a shelf of old trophies from his high school years. I remembered helping him with homework at the small desk I'd built to fit under the window, remembered the Saturday mornings we'd spent in the garage together working on my old Chevy, him asking questions about engines and torque, me answering everything he asked. I thought I was teaching him how things worked, how to build something that lasts, how to take care of what matters. I didn't know he'd use what I taught him to appraise me. I stood in the master bedroom last. Judith's side of the bed still had her water glass on the nightstand, her bookmark in the novel she never finished. I'd built the walk-in closets with my own hands, designed them to fit her height perfectly. Her clothes still hung there, still carrying a faint trace of her perfume. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at her photo. She'd warned me more than once, not about Nolan specifically, just about me. About the way I gave without keeping track, helped without conditions, assumed the people I loved would do the same. "You're too generous for your own good, Leonard," she used to say. "People stop being grateful when they stop having to ask." I should have listened harder. I went back downstairs, picked up my phone, and called Stuart Langford. Stuart was 43, top-rated agent in the Denver area, averaged 18 days from listing to closing. His profile showed a long list of cash sales in established neighborhoods. He came by that same afternoon, walked through every room with a tablet and a sharp eye, and by the time he reached the bay window, his expression had already told me what I needed to know. "Mr. Granger, I'll be straight with you. Properties like this don't come on the market often. Original owner, custom work throughout, maintained like new construction." He scrolled through his tablet. "I have an investment group that's been looking for exactly this type of property. They pay cash, no financing contingencies. They can close in 10 business days. I asked him what the number looked like, $820,000 and $20,000. Maybe more if we push it, but at that price it moves fast. $820,000. More than Nolan had calculated in his head that night on the phone. The irony wasn't lost on me. My son thought he knew what my house was worth. He'd underestimated it same way he'd underestimated me. I told Stuart to draw up the paperwork. I signed the next morning with hands that did not shake. Over the following days, I kept my routine like nothing had changed. I answered Nolan's check-in, text the same as always. Doing fine. Thinking about getting out to the garden this weekend. Short, warm, grateful sounding. He had no idea I was one step ahead of him on every front. On day 6, I called the bank holding the co-sin note on Nolan's $45,000 loan. I spoke with someone in their commercial lending division and formally withdrew my guarantor status, effective immediately per the terms of the original agreement. The woman on the phone was professional and calm. She told me the primary borrower would be notified. I thanked her and hung up. That was the second piece of the puzzle in place. Day 7, I went back to Arnold Davenport's office to review the closing documents. Everything was clean. Title search clear. No liens, no complications. Cash transaction meant no appraisal delays, no lender conditions. Arnold walked me through each page the way he always did, thorough, no shortcuts. When I signed the final page, he looked up and said, "You sure about this?" "I built it," I told him. "I can sell it." He nodded once and didn't say anything else. Day 8, I called Sunset Manor Apartments. A woman named Marlene Ashford managed the property. A senior community in Highlands. Clean grounds, quiet neighbors, community center with a small fitness room. She had a furnished 1-bedroom available for immediate occupancy, month-to-month lease. I told her I'd take it. I met her there that afternoon with a check for first month plus deposit. She handed me 2 keys and asked if I needed help with the move-in paperwork. I told her I'd handled more complicated paperwork than this on a single Tuesday. She smiled like she believed me. That evening I started packing. Not everything, just what mattered: Judith's jewelry box, our wedding photos, Her cookbook with the handwritten notes in the margins, the chocolate cake recipe she'd adapted over 20 years until it was exactly right. My engineering certificates. The photo albums from Nolan's childhood that I would not leave behind regardless of anything else. I left the furniture, left the bay window, left the kitchen Judith had loved and the hardwood floors I'd laid by hand, and the closets I'd built to her exact measurements. The new owners would fill those rooms with their own lives. That was fine. Those things had served their purpose. What I was taking with me was smaller and more important than any of it. Closing day was a Friday. 2 weeks after the Tuesday, Nolan forgot his phone. I dressed carefully that morning, the navy suit Judith had picked for Nolan's college graduation. She'd said it made me look like a man who knew what he was doing. I figured she was right then and she was right now. Stuart brought the notary, Ruth Kingsley, and coffee for everyone. The buyers were represented by their attorney, a sharp woman who double-checked every document without apology. I respected that. Arnold sat beside me and handled the paperwork the way he handled everything, methodical, no shortcuts, no rushing. I read every page myself. Old habit from 30 years of reviewing construction contracts. Stuart noticed and made a comment about it. I told him I'd never signed anything I hadn't read twice, and I wasn't about to start now. Sale price $820,000. Cash purchase. Clear title. I initialed where indicated and signed where required. Each signature felt like something releasing. Not grief exactly. More like a chain coming off one link at a time. The wire transfer confirmation came through that afternoon. $820,000 less closing costs deposited to my new account at Colorado Community Bank. More money than I'd ever seen in one place. More than Nolan had estimated that night on the phone. And he was a project manager in real estate. He thought he knew my house better than I did. He was wrong about that too. We shook hands all around. Stuart walked me to my truck and told me I'd made a smart decision. I thanked him and didn't explain anything further. I drove home through neighborhoods I'd known for 25 years, past the elementary school where Nolan had learned to read, past the park where Judith and I walked every Sunday morning for almost 20 years, right up until she couldn't anymore. I didn't feel sad driving past those places. I felt clear. I had one more thing to do before I was finished with that house. I ordered the camera that evening. Wireless, motion-activated, disguised as a standard phone charger, $149, expedited shipping. The reviews said the video quality was sharp and the audio picked up conversations clearly from across a room. It would arrive Thursday. Wednesday, I changed the locks. Called an emergency locksmith named Earl Covington. Told him I had a security situation that needed handling that day. He arrived in a white van, took one look at the original brass hardware I'd installed 15 years ago and said whoever put these in knew what they were doing. I told him that was me. He switched everything out to new silver locks, front door, back door, garage side entrance, 3 copies of each key, $450 cash, no paper trail. The new locks click differently than the old ones. More mechanical, less familiar. That felt right. Thursday morning, the camera arrived. I spent an hour at my kitchen table learning the app, testing the motion detection, adjusting the angle until I could see the full entryway from the outlet near the front door. Crystal clear, audio sharp enough to hear a quiet conversation. Thursday afternoon, I drove to the house for the last time. I parked in the garage and sat in the truck for a minute before going in. I wasn't sure I was ready for what I was about to do, not the camera, not the letter. The walking through, the house smelled like home. Judith's lavender sachets, still tucked in the linen closet. The faint lemon oil I'd always used on the wood furniture. 25 years of meals and mornings and ordinary evenings layered into the walls. I went to the garage first. The old workbench was still in the corner where I'd built it. Solid oak, exactly level, drawers that opened smooth even now. Nolan and I had spent a lot of Saturday afternoons out here when he was around 12. He'd pull up a stool and watch me work, asking questions about everything. How does a carburetor know how much fuel to let in? Why does metal expand in heat? What's the difference between a load-bearing wall and a partition? I answered every question he ever asked me. I thought that was what fathers were supposed to do. He'd grown up and used that education to become a project manager who could look at a property and calculate its market value in his head. He'd looked at my house the same way. He'd looked at me the same way. I turned off the garage light and went inside. I walked through every room one last time. Not slowly, not with ceremony, just a man checking his own house before he leaves it. The kitchen where Judith had taught Nolan to make her chocolate cake. The living room where we'd set up the Christmas tree every year for 2 decades. The bay window where she'd spent her evenings reading. Nolan's old room with the navy paint and the shelf of trophies. The master bedroom where Judith had spent her last days and where I'd spent the 2 years since just trying to get through each one. In my home office, I took the last few things from the drawer. The bank notices with Nolan's $180,000 debt. I folded them and put them in my jacket pocket. Not as a weapon, just as a reminder to myself that I hadn't been wrong about what I'd heard, that this was real and I had responded correctly. I positioned the camera at the front door outlet, angled it the way I'd practiced at my apartment, checked the feed on my phone. Perfect view of the entryway and the front door from the inside. Then I wrote the letter. I drafted it 3 times over the past week. The first version was too raw. The second was too cold, the third one was right. I wrote it by hand in the careful print Judith had always said was the clearest handwriting she'd ever seen from a man who worked construction. Nolan, I taught you everything you know about real estate. I co-signed your first loan because I believed in you. I covered for you on the Riverside project when you made errors in the permit filings. Because I was your father, and that is what I thought fathers did. But I never taught you how to price your own father like a distressed property. The house has been sold, $820,000 cash. The money is in my account. My guarantor status on your $45,000 loan has been formally withdrawn. The bank will contact you this week regarding your outstanding balance. You told me once that everything you have started with me, you were right. And today it ends here the same way. Dad, I folded the letter, sealed it in a white envelope, and wrote his name on the front in the same careful print. Then I taped it to the inside of the front door at eye level, exactly where he would see it the moment he stepped inside. Before I left, I unlocked the kitchen window latch and left it just slightly open. They'd need a way in when the keys didn't work. I wanted them to have to work for it. I locked the new locks, walked to my truck, and drove away from Maple Street without looking in the rearview mirror. My new apartment was small and quiet and completely mine. Marlene Ashford had left a welcome packet on the kitchen table with instructions for the laundry room and a schedule for the community center. The furniture was plain but solid. The windows faced west and caught the evening light. I put Judith's jewelry box on the dresser, set our wedding photo on the nightstand, and her cookbook on the kitchen shelf. I hung my engineering certificates on the wall above the small desk in the corner. It didn't look like much, but nothing about it belonged to anyone who wanted to get rid of me. That first evening, I walked 3 blocks to a coffee shop called Brews and Views. A young woman named Beverly Holbrook was behind the counter, purple streaks in her hair, easy smile. She made strong coffee without asking twice about how I wanted it. I sat by the window and watched people walk dogs and push strollers in the early evening light. Normal Thursday in Denver. Nobody knew what I had just done. Nobody knew what was coming tomorrow. I slept better that night than I had in months. Friday morning, I was up before 6. Made coffee in the small kitchenette, stood at the window while the city came awake. Nolan and Diane's flight from Phoenix was due in around 3. They'd be at the house by 5 at the latest, allowing for baggage and the drive from the airport. I had time. I showered, dressed, made a simple breakfast. Eggs and toast, the same thing I'd made myself every Friday morning for 30 years. Then I sat down in the chair near the window with my phone and opened the camera app. The feed was clean and steady, empty entryway, front door, the white envelope still taped exactly where I'd left it, Nolan's name facing outward in my careful print. The motion detection was armed and the battery was fully charged. I waited. At 5:08 p.m. my phone buzzed. Motion detected. I leaned forward and watched the screen. Nolan's black SUV pulled into the driveway. He and Diane got out, moving easy, relaxed, the way people move when they think they're coming home to something that belongs to them. Nolan pulled 2 suitcases from the back. Diane had a garment bag over one shoulder and her phone in her hand. They walked up to the front door together. Diane reached it first, dug her keys out of her bag, found the right one, put it in the lock. It didn't turn. She frowned and tried again, jiggling it slightly. Then she pulled it out and looked at it like the key itself had done something wrong. That's strange. My key isn't working. Nolan set down the suitcases and tried his own key. Same result. He tried the back door while Diane stood at the front. I watched her on the camera, standing on the porch with her arms crossed, looking at the door like she could figure it out by staring hard enough. Nolan came back around in about 2 minutes. His face had changed. The relaxed airport expression was gone. Back door is locked. Garage remote isn't responding either. He looked at the front door hardware, then looked at Diane. These are new locks. Someone changed these locks. That's not possible. Dad doesn't even know any locksmiths. Diane, he kept his voice low and steady, but I could hear it clearly through the audio. These are brand new. This is not an accident. Diane walked around the side of the house. I switched to watching through the app while she found the kitchen window I'd left unlatched. She pushed it open, looked at Nolan. He made a step with his hands. She climbed through in her travel clothes, jacket catching on the window frame, and a moment later the front door opened from the inside. Nolan carried the suitcases in. They both stopped in the entryway. The white envelope was right there, eye level, impossible to miss. I watched Nolan reach up and pull it down slowly. He turned it over in his hands, looked at his name in my handwriting for a moment, then he opened it. Diane read over his shoulder. I watched their faces go through several things in quick succession, confusion first. Then the specific kind of stillness that comes right before something breaks. He sold the house. Diane's voice came through the audio sharp and clear. Nolan, he actually sold the house. I can see that. 820,000 outer. He's had this planned. How long has he had this planned? Nolan set the letter down on the entry table. He picked up his phone and called my number. I watched him do it on the camera and felt my phone buzz in my hand at the same time. I let it ring through to voicemail. He called again. Voicemail again. Diane was already on her own phone. I heard her say Arnold Davenport's name, then a long pause while she listened. Whatever she heard made her go still. She turned to Nolan. The co-sign on your business loan. He withdrew his guarantor status last week. The bank has already started their review process on the outstanding balance. Nolan didn't say anything for a moment. How much does the bank know? He finally asked. Enough. Diane's voice was flat. The $180,000 exposure is fully on you now, no guarantor. They'll want a repayment plan or collateral within 30 days. Nolan sat down on the bottom stair, the same stairs he'd run up and down 1,000 times as a kid. He put his elbows on his knees and looked at the floor. He knew, Nolan said quietly. He knew about the debt. Of course he knew. You left those bank notices here last fall. I thought he hadn't seen them. Diane let out a short breath. He's a construction engineer, Nolan. He reads everything twice. He always has. You know that. The room went quiet. I watched my son sit on those stairs in the house that wasn't his anymore. In the house that had never been his. In the house I'd built before he was old enough to walk. And I watched him understand that he had badly misjudged the man who raised him. Diane tried one more call. I didn't recognize the number, but I could guess. Another attorney. Another angle. She listened for about 2 minutes and then hung up without saying much. Whatever she heard closed that door too. Nolan hadn't moved from the bottom stair. Diane walked to the living room and stood at the bay window, the one I'd spent 6 months of overtime paying for, the one Judith had loved. Diana looked out at the front yard, like she was calculating something the same way she always calculated things. Then she stopped. I don't know what she saw out there. Maybe nothing. Maybe she just ran out of calculations. We have nowhere to go, she said, not to Nolan specifically, just out loud. I know, our lease on the condo expired. We gave notice because we were moving here. We told them we were moving here. I know, Diane, and your loan review starts in 30 days. Nolan looked up from the floor. I understand the situation. Do you? Her voice wasn't loud, just tired and precise. Because I have been telling you for 2 years that we needed to handle our finances ourselves, that we couldn't keep treating your father like a safety net. You told me he was fine with it. You told me he liked helping. He did like helping. He liked you, Diane said. That's different. The room went quiet again. I watched them stand in my old living room, in the house that belonged to strangers now, with 2 suitcases by the door and no plan that was going to work. Then Nolan did something I didn't expect. He picked up the letter from the entry table and read it again, all the way through, slowly this time. When he finished, he folded it carefully and put it in his jacket pocket. He didn't say anything else. He just walked to the front door, opened it, and sat down on the top step of the porch. Norma Caldwell from next door was out front watering her garden the way she did every Friday evening. She looked over at Nolan sitting there, then at Diane still visible through the window, then back at Nolan. She had told me just last month that Nolan was a good boy and that I had raised him right. She didn't say anything now. She just turned off her hose and went inside. I watched my son sit on the porch of a house that no longer belonged to either of us. He didn't put his face in his hands. He didn't make any calls. He just sat there looking out at the street in the quiet of a Friday evening in Denver. I turned off the camera. I had seen what I needed to see. I went to the kitchen and found the bottle of Bordeaux I'd brought from the house. A 2018 I'd been saving. Judith and I had bought it for a special occasion that somehow kept not arriving. We were going to open it when Nolan's business turned its first real profit. Then when he got married. Then when we thought the timing was right. The timing was never right, and then Judith was gone, and the bottle sat in the rack for 2 more years while I waited for a reason. I opened it now. I poured 1 glass, carried it to the window, and looked out at the Denver skyline going gold in the late evening. I thought about the Tuesday night 2 weeks ago when I'd stood in my kitchen holding my son's phone and felt something go cold in my chest. I thought about Judith and her bookmark on page 247 and the way she'd warned me more than once that I was too good for my own good. I thought about the garage workbench and the Saturday afternoons and all the questions I'd answered and all the things I'd tried to pass down to a kid who grew up and forgot where he came from. I raised the glass in the direction of Judith's photo on the nightstand. I kept the promise. I said out loud. The wine was good. The apartment was quiet. Outside, the city moved through its ordinary Friday evening, indifferent and steady, the way cities do. I was 63 years old. I had $820,000 in a bank account that no one else could touch. I had a month-to-month lease in a place where nobody expected anything from me. I had Judith's jewelry box on the dresser, and her cookbook on the shelf, and her photo where I could see it from my chair. I was nobody's burden. I was nobody's problem to solve. Leonard Granger had left the building. He wasn't coming back. If any part of this story felt familiar to you, you already know what it means. Some people in your life will love you for what you give them. Others will love you for what they can take. The difference between those two groups is not always obvious until the moment it is. If you're sitting on something you built yourself, something you earned and sacrificed for, do not be so grateful for the attention that you hand it over to people who are already spending it in their heads. You have more options than they want you to know about, and you're sharper than they think. If this story meant something to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below and let us know where you're watching from. And if you're ready for the next one, it is waiting for you.